Namaste and welcome to yet another episode of the Influence Academy with myself Anusha, brought to you by ExtraTech, 3B's Educational Migration and NepTech Solutions. I and our entire Everest TV team would like to wish our viewers a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. May this new year be exceptionally kind to all of us. In this episode, we'll be discussing his journey to Australia, how he climbed his career ladder, what are the skills that the big tech companies look for, and his message to the viewers who are interested in cloud computing. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Satya Shrestha. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Anusha. How are you?
Very well. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Satya, let's start with a basic question.
Yeah, sure.
Cloud computing is a relatively new idea made possible from the growth of the internet bandwidth. So for a layperson like me, it is really like a magic. So what is cloud computing in a simple terms that a layperson like me can understand?
Right, okay. So yeah, cloud computing is relatively new. It's not that new now, right? It started somewhere around 2007, 2008 when Amazon Web Services brought their first service called S3 in the market. So it is relatively new, but not that new. It is now almost 13 years into the market, right? So basically what cloud computing is, it is actually a platform, or it is an environment where people can run their services, especially computing services, network services, storage. There are so many services now, right? Even AI, ML, that kind of services. All of those things that can be run in the cloud. Again, like you said, the building block is always network and internet bandwidth. Those are important aspect of it. But the main thing about cloud computing is that people can have a flexible and scalable environment where they can host any services, any digital services they want in the cloud. So there are many, like big Fortune 500 companies, they are using cloud computing today, from like small pizza shop companies to really, high-tech big companies are using it, right? So it has become an evolutionary technology, and almost, every aspect of our life is being impacted by cloud computing.
So let's start with your background. You had done MBA from University. So what made you switch your career from business to IT?
Okay, so I was never really on business side of thing, right? My qualification was MBA. However, I was always working in IT industry. So back home in Nepal, I was working as an IT officer for an international company called PSI Nepal. I think that company still exists there and doing pretty well. So I was an IT officer there. I was working in IT, but in Nepal at that time, IT education was not that matured. So there were like few universities there, but not that great universities. So that was one of the reasons, I chose commerce. We call it commerce in Nepal, right? Mm-hmm. So I did my MBA. I think that was around 2003. Mm-hmm. And then while I was working on IT, I thought that, if I wanna have a good career in IT, I better have a good degree in IT as well, right? Mm-hmm. So that is the reason, I then later on moved on to my other degree, which is Masters of Information Technology from Australia. Mm-hmm. That's how I actually progressed. So then, MIT, I acquired it in 2007, I think that was. Mm-hmm. And from there on, I continued my career in IT.
So let's talk about your journey from being an IT officer to being a multi-cloud solution architect. So how did it all start?
I was working as an IT officer. I completed, my tenure in PSI when, I decided to actually come here to Australia. Mm-hmm. So 2005, I came here mm-hmm. for my education, my higher education. I completed my MIT. Mm-hmm. So around that time, you know how the student life here in Australia is, right? So at the time, because I couldn't work full-time in IT, even if I knew how to work on IT. So those 2 years was sort of like a gap year for me, and I was just focusing fully on study at that time, right? So once I got my permanent residency, that's when all the doors opened. And for me, because I already knew IT, it wasn't that hard for me to get into the market here again, because people can tell, if this guy knows his technology or what he's talking about or not, right? If you go on an interview, they can tell how sound that person is in that technology. So then, as soon as I got my permanent residency, I got a job here in a local company. It's not really local, it's still international, it's a fashion brand. So I worked there for about 8-9 months. And then my next job was in another software company. So I worked there again for 2-3 years, and then I moved on to IBM. In IBM, I spent about 2.5-3 years, I think. And then yeah, I had a really great opportunity and exposure to all the Fortune 500 companies. Especially IBM is a reputed enterprise brand, right? So they work with really large companies. And from IBM, then I saw a role opening in Amazon Web Services that was just starting here in Sydney at that time. Then I moved to AWS, and that's where I actually got started with cloud computing. That's where I learned about cloud computing. That's where I became a subject matter expert in multiple services that AWS has. So 2 services that I was subject matter expert was on RDS and EBS. So those are like really popular services in Amazon Web Services. Then I spent there around close to 4 years. And
so
what
is RDS and what is EBS?
Okay, yeah. So sorry for the acronyms. RDS is a relational database service. It is a database service that is again hosted on cloud, right? It follows all the cloud computing model. Like I said earlier, elasticity, scalability, cheaper costs as compared to the on-premises side of thing. So that is RDS. And EBS, if you ask me what EBS is, then EBS is Elastic Block Store. It's a storage service that is actually a service that you can actually mount as a disk to Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2 instances. Okay, so going back to AWS, right? So I spent about 4 years there in AWS, and then another opportunity came up. So I was continually looking for growth. As you continue your professional career, you should not be just sticking on one place, right? Don't be comfortable. Oh, I'm happy here, right? And I'm doing things. So always think outside of the box. Always think getting out of that comfort zone, and always think, how can I continue growing? So that was the way I actually look at my career. So from AWS, I got another job opportunity in a local partner company here in Australia called Cloud10. Then I moved there. I stayed there for around close to 1 year, and then another company offer came from VMware, which was one of the best offer. Then I moved on to VMware, and here I am as a multi-cloud architect in VMware.
These are the multinational tech giants. So what was the experience like? I mean, the core experience like working there?
So yeah, working with these multiple IT giants, they are all IT giants, right? IBM, AWS, VMware. It is a privilege, right? And it is also, I feel really honored to work with companies. This company has put their name in history, right? When I was a student, I used to read about IBM PCs and all the revolutionary mainframes that IBM brought, right? And to have worked with IBM, it's a privilege, and I feel really proud about that. Same thing with Amazon. Amazon is the one who started the cloud computing, right? To work with them is another privilege, and lots of things I learned there. It's not just the technology, but so many other things that happens inside the company, right? Things like how to deal with multiple people, how to deal with multiple stakeholders, how to deal with your customers and partners, all those things you learn there. So those are good exposure I have. So in terms of multinational companies or these IT giants, the main thing is that they have a really good system. They have a really good system that works everywhere. It's like a consistent system all around the world, right? So I found that a common thing in every company, but the one main differentiator I find in every company that makes them different than other company is called company culture. So many people, they don't really think about company culture, but that is, I think, the lifeblood of any company. And as a professional, for myself now, if I am to join any company, I would want to align my personality and what I want to do or how I am, right? And also see if that company has that values, if that company also aligns with my values. Those are the important things now, right? So both things has to match. And like I said, company culture is very important because the way company behaves, the way company operates, it all depends on company culture. IBM had its own company culture. AWS has its own company culture, right? So if you ask me about AWS has something called leadership principles.
Okay.
There are like 14 leadership principles. That is their company culture. In VMware has its own company culture. We call it EPIC 2 values. So those are very important things, right? For multinational company, these are the things, and the whole company runs, or the whole, the operation happens around that culture.
So you basically applied to these positions and you acquired jobs and you worked there for a number of years. So starting from the basics, how did you apply to that? I mean, how did you apply to these positions?
Okay, so now in the beginning, my first role here in Australia was from seek.com.au. That was, I think that still is one of the best platform to apply for jobs, right? So apply for the jobs. Of course, for any new beginners, I always tell them, if you are applying for a company, make sure that your resume matches what they're asking. Don't just make like a canned resume and then blast it for hundreds of companies, same resume. It doesn't work like that, right? So what I always did was, I always researched about that company, looked at the job description, and I see, what are the matching things that I have in my resume and what are the gaps I have in the resume, right? So clearly articulate that thing and then submit the resume. So for me, I wouldn't say finding a job was that hard. Maybe I'm lucky, or maybe my resume was good at that time. So I applied like that, right? So seek.com, my first job like that. Second job was also from seek.com, and later on when LinkedIn came, I started having profile in LinkedIn. Okay. Networks, LinkedIn, very, very important these days, right? If you have lots of good network going around you, and you have a very good profile, you don't need to apply jobs once you are in a certain standard. So for me, if I have to look for a job, I don't really need to look for a job these days, because people will actually ask, especially the HR, the recruiting team, they are continually hunting for good talents.
So what are the selection process was like on those tech companies, giant tech companies?
Okay, so talking about the selection process, every company has their own different selection process, but if you look at the frameworks are usually similar. Like I said earlier, it's not just a technical thing, right? If a big company is going to hire you, they will not look only for your technical skills. They will not look for how good you are in terms of technology, but they will also see if this guy is culturally fit or not. Okay. That is the thing I was talking about earlier, right? The lifeblood of company. If you are not culturally fit in that company, what that then means is, even if you are really superb in technology, they will not hire you. So it has to be a good balance of technology and also the company culture. Do I already have those values that company look for? Do I already has, for example, for AWS, do I already have those leadership principles that they want us to start showing in the field, right? So those are the interesting things, and those are the things they will look for, and they will select the candidate depending on, okay, this guy has a technology and this guy also has a good cultural fit. Okay, then they will offer you the role.
So what is a day-to-day job like?
So day-to-day jobs varies depending on where you are, right? Every role has its own way of doing things. So most of the time, whatever is shown in the asked in the job description, it matches the day-to-day roles. So for me, if you ask me what is my current day-to-day role like, then my current role as a multi-cloud architect in VMware is to look after my customers and partners, right? It's every company, the core is always customer, doesn't matter what that company is. Now with VMware, my current role is to actually help my customers adopt multi-cloud technologies that VMware has. So VMware currently has lots of multi-cloud offerings. We call it offerings. It may be again another technical jargon for our viewers, but we have cloud offerings in Microsoft, we have cloud offerings in AWS, we have cloud offerings in Google.
What do you mean by cloud offering?
So cloud offering is like our services. So VMware has its own services. We call it VMware Cloud Foundation that can run on any cloud. So it's the same consistent set of services that can run on any cloud. It can run in Microsoft. Microsoft is a big cloud giant now. So same with AWS and Google, right? Even IBM, and even there is Alibaba Cloud, which is in all this Asia Pacific region. Alibaba Cloud is another big one. So all of these big cloud vendors, they are in the market. our multi-cloud offering, our cloud offerings can run on any of them. So it is good for our customers that they can move between one cloud provider to another without any issues, without any ease, without any difficulties, I would say. Yeah.
Was there any time in your life that you had no idea what you were doing? I mean, looking back, what are the 3 things that you wish that you knew better?
Okay, so for that, I would say, I think I didn't do well when I was here as a student, even if I had a really good technical background and all the experiences needed to actually work in IT field. At that time, I didn't know how to actually get into the job here. That was back in 2005, 2007. So if I look back, I would actually build a good professional network in the area. For me, it's IT, right? And then see if someone can help me, if someone can mentor me, right? Maybe it's also the evolutionary time, because at the time LinkedIn was not there, social media was in really early stage, and we didn't have that kind of networking and connections and things like that, right? But if I look back and then see what I would change if we had technology like this today, I would go back to LinkedIn or some social media platform where I can network with people, or go to some social gatherings or social events, right? The companies do lots of events, and then try to see if there are any jobs I can get from there. So that's one thing I would do. The other thing I said about mentorship, I didn't look for mentor. I didn't have any mentor. If I had a platform like what we have right now, I would go and seek for mentor and get their help, get their guidance. That's the one thing I would do. Rest, I actually grew organically in my career. Yes, definitely there are many friends, many workmates, many managers who helped me throughout the career with guidance and mentorship. Though it is not formal, it's informal. Those other things, help me, right? But for newcomers, if you are in early stage of your career, I would say definitely go in LinkedIn, build the connections, not just the connections with anyone, but a meaningful connections, right? Connect with them, seek help. There are many people who are there who can offer you help. Seek help for that, and then try somewhere.
So what are the best resources that helped you along the way?
The best resources that helped me along the way are usually, I would say, tutorial sites. I do lots of self-study myself, right? Lots of self-study materials. Now you have platform like Linux Foundation, Pluralsight, especially for IT guys. There is another platform called Cloud Guru. So all the cloud knowledge you can gain from those platforms, right? And read and research as much as you can. Read lots of audio, listen to lots of audiobooks. There are so many resources available these days. So do your due diligence. Learn a lot, be eager and hungry to learn, and connect with people, seek help, maybe try to get some mentorship from people who are established in the industry. There are many good people who can actually help as a mentor.
So it's that you say that you didn't have any mentor to guide you. Did you take any inspiration from people or some?
Absolutely.
Can you name a few?
Yeah, so for me, my inspiration has always been someone who are really open-minded people, who look after community, not just themselves, right? And also someone who are leader in that area. So for me, my inspiration, if you look at my early days, I would say Bill Gates is one of them, right? Now he's an awesome philanthropist. I follow him in his Gates notes and things like that. There is another person called Simon Sinek. He's relatively new, but his sessions, his books, they are really inspirational. He talks about how you can be a mentor, and at the same time how you can be a mentee. And he talks about corporate culture. He talks about how a leader should be leading his team, right? And how an individual can continue growing in his career. So Simon Sinek is another one. I really look up to Elon Musk. He's a revolutionary guy. He's brought so many good things for the world, like things like Tesla, electric car. I really believe in sustainable living, right? And helping the mother nature somehow. So electric cars, solar powered batteries, and all these things he's doing. So Elon Musk is another one whom I look up to. And the other person in my own company, VMware, his name is Pat Gelsinger, who is our CEO. I look up to him because he's a visionary. He looks after not just the customers and his own company, but also his employees, right? So those are the those are qualities I would look for in any leader, and I want to replicate that sort of thing in my own life as well.
So having said that, I would want to ask you one question. So what is the term called virtualization, and how did it start?
Okay, yeah, so VMware is the pioneer in virtualization. So virtualization actually started from in a really commercial way from VMware, right? So early 2003, 2004, that's when it actually became mainstream. That's when like big enterprises, all the Fortune 500 today, they use virtualization. So what is virtualization? Virtualization is a technology. It can virtualize now your compute, which is a processor, your memory, your network, your storage. All of these things can be virtualized, right? So if you think about early days, everything, even now in many countries like Nepal, we still have physical servers, and we don't use virtualization that much. But what virtualization did was actually, to bring that physical box in a virtual form. So VMware has a hypervisor. It's a technology, hypervisor called ESXi. So it sits on that physical machine, and then it actually, interacts with all the hardware components, right? So what that means then is, rather than that physical machine just having one operating system or one disk or one network card, what virtualization can do suddenly is it can show that physical machine as like a data center itself. So now, depending on the capability of that physical machines, they can have multiple virtual machines running inside. Okay. Right? Instead of one physical machine, now you can have 10s, 20s, hundreds, depending on the size of the server, depending on the capacity of server, you can do that, right? So that is the power of virtualization. And if you look at the further growth, how the technology has evolved, cloud computing under the hood, it's all virtualization. Okay. Right? So cloud computing is the next generation of virtualization. Now there is another technology called containers. Okay. If you haven't heard of it, research about it. There's containers and terms called Kubernetes, which is orchestrating thing for the containers, right? So there's a new evolution happening every 5-10 years, right? Okay. So virtualization is everywhere. Okay. If you look at virtualization, is everywhere. If you play your phone, right, or if you use any mobile phone, I would say almost 99% of that app comes from either from cloud or some form of on-premises virtualized environment. Okay.
So as we talked about mentorship, and as we talk about guidance and how important it is to have someone who we look up to, someone who could guide us, someone who could train us. Yeah. So how important is it to have a mentor for a successful career, and how do we choose one?
I would say mentor is very important, right? Like I said earlier, if you don't have mentor, see if someone can help you. There are lots of good people around there in the area of your liking or area of your expertise. You can look for. Now, like I said, it's so easy from social media these days, especially from LinkedIn for professional networks. Go and look for, for example, you are a network expert. I want a mentor in networking, right? Go and look for some networking experts and then see, who may be able to help you. Don't be scared to approach them, right? So approach them and get the mentorship, right? It's very, very important to have a mentor, because the mentor has already done what you are going to do. So they are already 10, 15 steps ahead of you. They have done that through their experiences. So if you get a good mentor, then that person can assess where you are and what are the gaps you have, what are the things you may be able to do if he guides you properly. And in many cases, mentorship is voluntary. It's a free service, right? Someone wants that person to grow, and he wants him to succeed or her to succeed. The mentor will do that. So look for people who can do that. And like I said, do not hesitate to reach out to people. I know everyone is time strapped. Respect people's time as well. But if you find a good mentor and the mentor says, okay, I'll be able to help you, then make sure that you consistently get connected, ask for feedback, do some sessions with the person, the mentor, and the mentor will guide you, properly.
So do you have any experience mentoring somebody?
Yeah, I do mentor many people here and there, right? Lots of people reach out to me in LinkedIn for some suggestions. Some people want to do one-on-one, career sessions and things like that. Yes, I do help them, and I'm open for anyone who wants, a career in IT here in Australia or wherever that is, even in Nepal or worldwide, wherever. If you want help, reach out to me. Again, time is a big constraint, but I'm open for helping people. One thing about mentorship is I'm actually recently connected with a group group called Explorers, and we are actually planning for a similar kind of, a mentorship program where people who are struggling to get their first role in Australia or USA or any other part of the world for that matter, we can actually help them. So we are building that kind of framework. Hopefully that will come next year, but we are working on that kind of platform.
Where can our listeners connect to you on online?
So online, if they want to connect to me, I'm on almost all social platforms, but I use LinkedIn primarily for professional networks. You can also look for me in Facebook. I'm there also, right? But yeah, you can connect me in LinkedIn, send me a message if you want to connect with me. But again, if anyone wants to be my mentee, I want a dedication, consistency, right? It's not just like anyone wants to be a mentee and that person will become my mentee, or I'll be a mentor for that person, but I also want some kind of commitment from that person. So yes, they can reach out to me in LinkedIn, and then I'm happy to help anyone who needs help.
So what advice would you like to give to someone wanting to pursue a career like yours?
So my advice to someone who wants to pursue a career in IT is be well trained, be hungry to learn, and then also, like I said, get a mentor who can assist you with that, right? And again, be consistent. If you are just looking at one technology and then you just do it for like 1 or 2 months and you leave it, it's not going to happen, right? It has to be a consistent. You have to be determined, and you have to be continually learning on that technology. Not just theoretically, but also start learning those things practically also. There are so many free services that now these days in internet, you can consume them. Again, everything needs time. You have to spend thousands of hours if you really want to be expert and successful. It doesn't happen overnight, right? So my advice is be dedicated. Choose the area that you really like, right? And you may already have some strength on. You go with your strength, and then continue learning, continue upskilling, get mentorship, and then do like tutorials and subscription in those sites, and then continue learning from there.
Then what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
What I would have asked myself that you didn't? Oh, okay. So the question for myself. Okay, what is it that really motivates me, right? Okay. So the thing that really motivates me is when I see someone grow or succeed, that makes me really happy. Okay. You can't actually buy that from anything, right? So that's one of the reasons I really want to help people who are, again, I don't want to help anyone. I want to help someone who is committed, who is dedicated, and they know where they are going, right? Or they don't know, but they are at least committed. I want to do this. If someone is like that, I'm happy to mentor. And I have said in many different platforms also, I'm happy to mentor people if they are consistent, dedicated. That's the thing that motivates me. If I'm mentees or someone who I'm coaching, right, become successful, that gives me immense satisfaction. So that's the thing that motivates me. Also things like I didn't talk about this earlier. So I'm actually along the similar line of thought. I'm actually mentoring few guys in Nepal. We have a YouTube channel called Creative Brothers. Okay. So they produce karaoke's and instrumentals and some videos. And so those guys, they want to be really good with media and music, right? So whatever I have learned in the industry in this past 20 years, I try to bring that best practices and tell them, hey, as a team, you should be working like this, right? And these are the areas you should be improving. And when I listen to their music, if there is any drop, like a something that they can improve, I'll tell them, improve here. So they are working as a team, and it gives me immense satisfaction when I see these guys growing, having like 50 or so karaoke's and instrumentals already in YouTube and also Spotify, iTunes, all the major digital stores, they have their own music and stuff like that. So seeing that thing, that makes me happy and motivated.
Then we're coming to the end of the program. Would you like to say some words to our viewers?
Thanks for watching. And thanks to you guys as well for inviting me. It's an awesome opportunity to be here and share some thoughts and knowledge, right? And like I said earlier, be consistent, be hungry, and also don't hesitate to reach out to people in the network. Continue building network, continue building professional network, right? Depending on what you want to do. And then seek help from people, get some mentorship. And I'm sure, all of you guys will be in a path to a successful career.
Thank you so much, Dai, for sharing your time with us. and we are and our entire Everest TV team would wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you very much, and I also, I reciprocate the same thing. I hope your Everest TV will flourish, right? It goes everywhere around the world, and and for all of your team, you guys are doing really well for creating such a platform that someone who is in the industry can share the knowledge. That's a good initiative. So continue doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. On that note, I would like to end tonight's episode. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned, stay safe, stay influenced. Thank you for watching Everest TV.